Welcome, everyone, to our March 18th Outreach and Network Guild meeting. I'm glad you're here. As always, we will take a few moments to ground in the space, and as part of that process, we start by centering the land and decentering the human ego. So we center the land because the land was here, has been the land since long before we became people. The land is who caused us to rise up, and the land will be here long after we are gone. Everything that we experience and everything that we are made of and everything that we encounter comes from the land and will return to the land, including our bodies. So I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and start to tune into our breath, allowing our minds to drop in a bit into the rhythmic in and out of the breath, remembering that we are a whole body, not just a brain. And as we breathe, we can start to notice the weight of our bodies on the chair, being held to the earth by gravity. And we can bring into our awareness the earth below our chairs and just spend some time being with and imagining in our mind's eye the vastness of this planet, the size of it, the weight of it, the mass of it, just allowing ourselves to be aware of this whole planet beneath us that is holding us. And we are part of the planet as well. We are not separate. And as you notice the land underneath us, we might let something go, let something melt or drip off of our bodies onto the land. Maybe something we're ready to release, something that's not serving us. And trusting that that will go somewhere into the earth where it can be alchemized or composted. A reminder that we are always held, including everything that we feel or experience. We can allow the planet to hold and maybe find a little bit more space in our own bodies. So once you feel like you have let something go, I invite you to start to come back to our space together by wiggling your fingers and toes and opening your eyes when you're ready. And our check-in question can be our traditional, what's the weather like where you are? And the circle as I see it is Ben, Roland, and me. Over to you, Ben.
The weather here is gorgeous. It's blue skies, white puffy clouds, lots of sunshine. Um, I have been inside working, but I imagine it's perfect outdoor working weather. And and I think that's my weather feels like I have indoor weather and outdoor weather today. And my indoor weather is dark and claustrophobic. But I just was able to take a walk outside after lunch and before the meeting. So I am I'm looking out the window and reminding myself that the weather out there is lovely. Over to you, Roland.
I forgot to tell you that there was frost this morning. So and nice and sunny. So that was cool. Over to you, Ronnie.
It is also very sunny here and very windy and pretty warm. Um, it's beautiful, and there's also lots of tree pollen everywhere on everything and giving everybody allergies. So there's always a farmer and the horse, I guess.
Yep.
And also we have high fire danger tomorrow, so hoping that nothing sparks. Indoor weather is also kind of just dark, and I was at work all day, and also just the news and things happening has me feeling kind of dark and tumultuous on the inside, but a good reminder to look outside and try and um, I don't know, balance through osmosis or something like that, something scientific. um, okay, so I will go ahead and share my screen so we can all be on the same page. Haha. Sorry, I needed to make myself laugh, I think. um, yeah, those notes are really old. I'm gonna delete that anyway. um, So our last meeting, we talked through scheduling the support sessions, and we talked through the newsletter, when that was going to happen. And the newsletter went out. The schedule is out. Some snafus here and there, but so it goes. Nothing's perfect. Um, and we've switched to a monthly newsletter. So I got the newsletter out last week, and then I'll do another one at the beginning of April and get us kind of on a beginning of the month schedule. So that all is taken care of. Um, were there any other action items?
We talked about the CHFBC, so I guess I can do an update on that,
Sure.
which is we met. I met with Ed and Michael, and the meeting went really well. And I sent them the webinar menu and pricing, thanks to all of the people who provided some feedback on that. And they are very interested. You know, they responded to, because I put in the thing about not involving an overnight, and they wrote back and said, "Oh, well, these are often on the weekend and da 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 da." So I think they are very interested in working with us, and it will be a question of who will, and they are in-person events that they do, and they're in Richmond. So, which is, obviously it's a fairly easy commute from here. So I think looks like we're going to be doing some lifeboat seminars for CHFBC. That's my update.
Awesome. Um, Great. I continuing with updates, met with Kath, and we're going to meet again on Friday, and she's going to walk me through how to use the transcription software. So that will help us with the whole testimonials thing. And we have an event scheduled next Tuesday. I invited everybody. Everybody is in Lifeboat Builders. So you have info about that in your email. And we'll see how it goes. New experiment. Are there any other updates that anybody has before we move on? Cool. So in terms of today, I think it'd be good to check in about this meeting time, because I meant to do that over email, and then I don't know, I got distracted and life happened. There's also a question around when we share other people's offerings on social media, what is the reciprocity? You know, do they put our logo on it? Do they mention us? Kind of what does that look like, or what could that look like? Um, Testimonials, updates, which I basically already shared my update, but there's that. And then there's the ongoing social media discussion. How are we using social media? How are we migrating off of Meta platforms? Um, I also want to check in about scheduling. Um, well, I guess I don't know if this is the place for that, but the scheduling question with the Farm Guild and the
Hmm.
navigation session slash agreement circles happening on the same on Thursdays. Um,
I think that would be a coordination. We can
Well,
talk about it now because we're three of the four caretakers, but I think if we want to put it in the right slot, it would be a coordination circle kind of thing.
okay. Okay, cool. Um, is there anything else anyone would like to add to the agenda? Over to you, Ben.
no, the only thing I have an aspect of the sharing different people's offerings, so it can go in there. And I have this vague feeling that there's something missing, but there's nothing coming up. So um, yeah, so I don't know. No, over to you, Roland.
I think I would, this is, yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think it's actually fits into the social media discussion, so I will wait until then.
Okay, cool. I propose we check in about the meeting time first, just to get it finished. Um, so we had talked about, I think meeting half an hour later is better for both Roland and me. Does that still feel accurate? Um,
For
Over
who?
to you, Roland. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
correct.
that my status hasn't really changed. It's I'm glad that it's not just me now. It would be handy for me to have it moved by a bit.
Okay. Ben, does that work for you?
Yeah, yeah, and I was just looking also to see, according to my list, people who are interested in outreach in attending are the three of us plus Austin and Pam. Uh, so Pamela had, but and I'm not sure where she is at on in terms of. I think she's sorting out which guild she wants to be involved in. But
Yeah,
anyhow, so I just wanted to make sure. In Austin, this is a good time for Austin, even if it's a little bit
generally.
later. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're good. And a little bit later works just as fine for me, maybe even better.
Yeah, the thing, Pam had said in a previous email that either time worked for her, and then she filled out the when to meet and said she was busy on Tuesdays. So then I was confused, and I think that's why I dropped the ball because I wasn't sure where Pam was, and then anyway, so let's let's do it, and then I can just let everybody know, and if she can come, great. Um, Awesome. Yeah, that helps me because sometimes, like today, I work on Tuesdays and then I have to rush home. So, um, awesome. Next on the list is talking about sharing other offerings. Are people ready to talk about that? Okay. Is there anybody who would particularly like to start the
I,
consideration?
I I'd like to start, and because I think I have uh, a consideration verging on our proposal, and it's something that came up when Roland and I were talking about. Well, actually, we were kind of comparing uh, hit rates on different social media, and Roland was comparing the response he gets from what he posts versus on uh, Blue Sky and Mastodon versus what gets posted as Lifeboat Academy. And in part, Roland personally posts other things other than just Lifeboat Academy things that could be Lifeboat Academy stuff. And anyhow, that's kind of irrelevant. What it led to was realizing lots of our Facebook builders, or sorry, geez, lots of our Lifeboat builders also post to other social media. And rather, in addition to the Lifeboat Academy posting what we post, so our memes and things like that, also sharing Lifeboat Builder posts. And I was thinking it can be a way, a really neat and tidy way of, for example, if you and Ruth are offering some, grief workshops, then it doesn't have to be the Lifeboat Academy offering it. We can just share the posts of the people that are, and I think that that's my understanding is that that's good social media practice anyhow. So it's not just what we're sharing, but we're also reposting other people's things. And it seems to check a couple different boxes. And I don't know what we need to work out in terms of details of, how do we choose what to post or whatever, or repost. But yeah, it just made me think that it seems like it might take care of a couple different things all at the same time. So that's the big thing I wanted to add. And should I just pass to Roland? Over to you, Roland.
Yeah, that sounds good. The thought came up for me in sort of thinking about reciprocity and interconnection and uh, how to encourage that sense of interweaving. Um, and so and the other thing that came up was it's okay for us to ask for stuff. For in terms of reciprocity, it's okay to ask. Um, it's not okay to expect, but I think it's okay to ask. Um, and often asking helps other people know how they can be in reciprocity or how they can reciprocate because people don't always know what to do. Um, so that's sort of like taking care of me to take care of you to take care of me kind of exchange. Um, so if we're pu- if so is that I don't know, that's not called anyway. Posting things from other people's websites is a way of interweaving. If somebody has a flyer that they're putting out and that they're asking for our help or something, then but there isn't anyway, I think so I think that there's different ways in which we can make suggestions on how there can be reciprocity and encourage and it's also to encourage a culture of reciprocity. Uh, so that's what I was thinking about. Over to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, I think all of this sounds good and makes a lot of sense. And it's also not hard. It's just keeping an eye out, resharing things. And it also communicates to the wider world that there's a network of people all connected to the Lifeboat Academy. Oh, what's going on here? This is cool. So, and it's making me think about there's like explicit social media content, and then there's implicit, like being part of shaping the algorithm towards the kind of stuff we do. So that's useful. Yeah, this sounds great. And I did this yesterday. I reshared my post on the Lifeboat page and then in the Lifeboat Builders group and identified myself as a lifeboat builder. So I think I don't think anyone's commented, but that's fine. Yeah, anything else about this? Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, it makes me, I wonder if one of the ways of doing that is asking people to hashtag. Like if we either Lifeboat Builder, Lifeboat Academy, Lifeboat, that could be one of the ways. And also then that does make it easier for other people to follow, then you can follow the hashtag and it's a, so yeah, this makes sense. I'm having this vague idea. I think the thing that I'm gonna pass now, but there is whatever it was that I wanted to bring up. It feels like it's related to this, and it has something to do with questions, asking questions. Um, and it's from a conversation that I've had in the last week, and it seems relevant to social media. So I can't remember the details, but I'll think about it. Over to you, Roland.
I think the hashtag is an interesting idea. And what is the difference between a hashtag and an at symbol? Because if I think the at symbol creates a link to, anyway, I don't know what the difference, I'm not sure what the difference is between the two and if one would work better than the other. Because I I think I saw that the at symbol actually creates a link to who you mention so that it shows up on their page or something like that. Anyway, what's the difference between the two? So how to use them properly is also maybe making a suggestion of that. I see that there are three different ones that are there, making a suggestion of one. I got early on in working either on Blue Sky or Mastodon. I was putting the laundry list of hashtags that we would do on Facebook, and I later found out that it's somebody who works for or is, I don't know what they call them, with either Mastodon or Blue Sky, and they were suggesting from 4 to 5 hashtags because more than that, it can get people or it can get flagged as being um, not junk mail, but uh, anyway, when there's too many hashtags, it is a deterrent. I can't exactly remember what they said. So maybe just picking one of the hashtags to suggest so that people don't then have to, anyway, it might make things simpler for others also. So over to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm wondering about Lifeboat Network because when we're on social media, it's kind of like bringing attention to we are a network. And people could use Lifeboat Builder if they're specifically talking about, I'm doing a resilience building project, hashtag Lifeboat Builder. So the at symbol refers to accounts, so specific people, specific accounts. And when you see at Lifeboat Academy, it's typically called a handle. So if someone's like, what's your Instagram handle? At Lifeboat Academy. So that's how you tag a specific person like you would on Facebook. And then the hashtag is a topic. So once you use a hashtag, if someone clicks on that hashtag, every single person, every single post that has that same hashtag will come up. So it's a way for people to find similar things that they're interested in. If I post hashtag grief, someone goes to that and they're going to see all kinds of information about grief. So it's a way that these platforms categorize interests basically and make them searchable. So the hashtag's only useful if people like, if Lifeboat Network becomes a thing, people can click the hashtag and they'll find all of these different people who are talking about being part of the network. And that's useful for us. Like that would be ideal. So yeah, are there anything else? Over to Ben.
This all makes sense. And I'm just, it's in the line of the testimonials, I think, the conversation that I'm trying to remember. Ah, and there's Pamela. I think it's in the line of, I think we were encouraging. Ah, I remember. Okay. There was, hi Pamela. There was a post that I saw on um, Blue Sky recently where someone was saying, you know, I get that you're all riled up and that's okay, that's good. But all the posts about you should do this and you should do that don't work for me. And tell me what you're doing. Basically said, instead say, here's what I'm doing about the crisis. What are you doing? Or try to inspire people to do the same. And that was, I was wondering how we do the same thing by trying to prompt people to say, what are you doing? Like, you know, um, and I don't know how this might work, but I think about like the ice bucket challenge. You know, it's actually kind of like tagging some people and saying, what are you doing to build resilience? And, you know, and giving people an opportunity to share that way. So switching around the like you should stuff, and because that's why it's connected to the testimonials, I think, you know, getting people to talk about what they're already doing as a way of sharing and connecting. I remembered. I'm so excited. All right, over to Lon.
Yeah, I wish we had recorded that conversation because the just putting out a question is kind of dry and kind of dull. But we were talking about ways of, and I think it was, oh, and I can't remember exactly what it was because it was asking people for interaction, but it felt more lively. Anyway, hope maybe between the two of us we can recall some of the ideas that we were coming up with at the time.
Or between the four of us, we can generate new ones.
Sure. Yeah, I can't quite remember what it was, but it was a different kind of not just throwing out a question and hoping people would respond. It felt more interactive somehow. Well, that's mysterious. Over to you, Ronnie.
Over to Pam. Pam, if you so we're
Am I late?
sorry.
Am I late? Did this
Yes,
start at 2 o'clock?
it starts off, it's yes
Yes and no.
and no.
Today we started at 2 and it's our usual time, but we just had a conversation to say that 2 o'clock is not a good time for half of us. And so next time we'll be meeting at 2:30 instead. So you are on time, but in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I couldn't find the time on the Asana. And so I was going by the last booking that I had on my calendar, which was 2:30.
Yep.
I know I'm in the middle of a conversation. Also, just a heads up that I've got to be out at 3:30 anyway, for
Okay.
something else that's happening. So I'll pass because I'm not I'm not tuned into this conversation. I'll take a look at the notes and listen to you and go from there.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here. And I really like this prompting, asking people to share. This is part of the storytelling. It's not just we are collecting people's stories. It's please tell your stories to your people and tell them what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing. Tag us, let people know that you're part of the Lifeboat Network. And what we could do is ask our people to do that with a specific hashtag. So we could say, and we can decide, you know, we could say, please tag Lifeboat Builder or please tag Lifeboat Network. And then over time, that creates a whole cache on the platform of lifeboat building posts, which is really cool. My other idea is a short video. Maybe I could tag Austin to make this video and say, where he says, tell us what you're doing. There's all of this info about do this and do that. We want to know what you're doing. And then I could respond to Austin's video and say, thanks, Austin. I'm Ronnie. Here's what I'm doing. And then Ruth could respond. It's like, anyway, I don't want to get too ahead of myself and ask too much of people all at once, but these are just some ways that we could make the network more visible, and trackable in a positive way, not a creepy surveillance way. Anyway, what hashtag do people feel passionate about? I wrote Lifeboat Builder, Lifeboat Academy, Lifeboats, and Lifeboat Network. Over to you, Ben. You're muted.
I just realized that I don't know that I've ever felt passionate about a hashtag, and I'm not sure that I'm capable of that, but I think simpler is better. And the only other thing I remember is, that it's when you put a hashtag together, what's it's from Arrested Development. I think it's Tobias was going to be an analyst therapist, and so he put down anal rapist together. So anyhow, just being careful that there's no you can read this part and this part in a different way.
Also, his license plate was a new start, but he spelled it like anus tart. That was funny.
Yes. So yeah, I kind of feel like it's less. I don't have a strong opinion on the hashtag, but I like the idea very much about. Well, and I wonder, can we do? Just thinking, we were talking about the at versus the hashtag, and I don't know. I know that people have done this kind of thing, but where I post mine and then I say at Ronnie, what about you? And so you're tagging somebody and inviting them in a more direct way. Anyhow, I think this is a really fun idea, and I'd love to see it take off. Over to you, Roland.
I agree with keeping it simple. We have been using the hashtag Lifeboat Academy, and if we were to add anything else, I think it would be good to think to I think it would be useful to avoid adding a whole slew of hashtags and try to keep things simple, so that if we do add a hashtag, that there is a salient reason for adding another one. So and there are some of the hashtags that Ronnie's written down that are actually interesting, and I don't want to just start using them. I want to make sure that if we start using them, if they would be new, I think anyway. Some of them I've never used, but that there's a clear reason why we start using them. So my vote would be just to use the Lifeboat Academy. If this is asking people as an act of reciprocity for people who want to have a connection with the Lifeboat Academy on their, no, hang on, let me rephrase that. If people are asking for something from the Lifeboat Academy in social media, and that we ask as a gesture of reciprocity that they add a hashtag to keep that simple, just at the Lifeboat Academy, I think that's what I'm feeling right now. Um, and I'm still not sure, like the at symbol sounds really interesting, but I'm still not sure how to use that, if at all. Um, yeah. So over to you, Pamela.
You're muted, Pam.
It's sometimes better that way. You can fill in the blanks. I don't have to be blank. I'm just getting a gist of the context, which is social media and making connections with people. And I don't have a whole lot of experience with the architecture behind that sort of thing, hashtags, apps, etc. But in the general conversation, I hear the lean towards simplicity, and that seems like a good way to do no harm at the very least. And I'm going to continue to listen so I can get a deeper picture of the nature of the concerns.
So if we want someone to follow Lifeboat Academy on social media from seeing a post, then we use the @ symbol, because @ Lifeboat Academy takes them to our profile on social media. If we want people to create a collection of posts separate from the Lifeboat Academy, then we would do hashtag Lifeboat Academy. Because when you put hashtag, then somebody will see Ronnie's lifeboat post and Ruth's lifeboat post and Austin's lifeboat post. So it's fine to do both. If we don't care about people seeing our profile, we can leave out the @ symbol. If we do want people to follow us more, if we want more people to follow us, then I'd say, like, please @ us. Please put @ Lifeboat Academy, and then people will find our profile. I like the hashtag Lifeboat Builder because it's very active. And especially if we're talking about share what you're doing, it's like, I'm a hashtag Lifeboat Builder, and here's what I'm up to. Thanks to the support of @ Lifeboat Academy, for example. So that way we're getting the hashtag and we're directing people to our account. So that's what I would be. I think that's what I'm in favor of. And we can play with it too. So yeah, over to you, Ben.
Yeah, I was just doing some quick searches on Blue Sky on different hashtags, and I think I'm coming to a very similar place as Ronnie. I don't like Lifeboat Academy because I think it's too branded. It's too about us. So I think it like makes sense that that's the @ Lifeboat Academy, that's us. But then the network of people would be Lifeboat Builders or Lifeboat Network. And I think between the two, I prefer the Lifeboat Builders. I also looked up resilience and just lifeboats. And lifeboats brings up all sorts of things about search and rescue and some stuff about the Titanic. So not great. And resilience brings up all sorts of things. So, including backyard bird feeders, and, it's really, really broad. So, and I did look, nobody else is using Lifeboat Network. No one else is using Lifeboat Builder. So it would be, recognizable. And yeah, and actually I can say I understand hashtags and @ signs better now than, and I've sort of vaguely been aware of them for several years now. And now all of a sudden it is starting to make sense to me. So, and I think that's the other thing too about the lifeboat. I don't think and we do have tagged Lifeboat Academy, and I think that's a reasonable tag, but that is really sort of more about us. It's sort of more internal or, proprietary. So I think something that's a little bit more generic. So yeah, either of those, Lifeboat Builder, Lifeboat Network, I would lean in that direction. And I also agree with the playing with it. We can just try some things and see. Over to Roland.
Well, a couple of things, and I kind of feel like I'd like to move on, so I'm a little hesitant about saying things that might prevent this from happening. But I was wondering about if the hashtags are too specific. Like, I'm still not clear on how people use hashtags. If they're too specific, will people find, like, are the hashtags useful for people to find us that don't know us, or is it that we want to have a quick way for people to find all of our posts? So I'm not sure how that works. And then there was something about what Ben was just talking about that anyway, I can't remember what it is now. So
Can I attempt an answer? Because I want to see if I want to I want to answer with somebody more knowledgeable in the room to see if I'm getting this right about that. So there are two ways to think about the tags, the hashtags. One is other people out there are going to tag their posts, not knowing anything about us, but having some interest in common. So, climate crisis or polycrisis or, something like that, or climate grief. So they might be kindred spirits, but they don't know about the lifeboat and we don't know about them. But we may end up tagging our posts with those generic topics, and someone else would click on their post about climate grief and our post about climate grief would come up. So they don't need to know what we're talking. That's kind of the generic use of the hashtag. But then you also want to be able to find things about a specific topic. Once you find something, like you see this post about, look at this cool thing this person is doing. Oh, and they're a lifeboat builder. What's that? And you click on that, and then you're getting not just the Lifeboat Academy, but oh, this is that specific group who's working on, these are people that have this shared approach. So it's not one way or the other. There's actually, they kind of can serve different purposes depending on, so we still want to post, we still want to tag our posts with things other than Lifeboat Builder, because that becomes a way for people to find us. But we also want to make sure that there's a way of kind of only seeing that list of posts that's specifically about lifeboat building. And I saw Ronnie nodding, so I feel like I got an A. All right, back to you, Roland.
yeah, that makes sense to me. Over to Pam.
Okay, I'm going to play the fool. I did not know there were two distinct Facebook pages, the builder and the network. Like, I thought, what can I say? So it's good to know that there are people like me out there. I am your audience. Despair not. Um, Thank you for the clarification about hashtags. Never knew that. Like, how it could be used in those different ways of pooling topics like that, and thereby linking up with certain, with the entity. I'm still a little bit, so the @ goes directly to the web page. That's a beeline to the site. Okay.
Not our website, but our account on a platform. So if you tag Lifeboat Academy on Facebook, it takes you to our Facebook page.
Gotcha.
You tag Lifeboat Academy on Instagram, it goes to our Instagram page.
Yes, all right. Okay. Yeah. I feel like I have learned something. Thank you. Is it your turn, Ben? Or you, Ronnie?
Yeah, so we ended up actually kind of having two discussions in one, which is cool. Talking about sharing things and also just generally how are we using social media. Are there any action items specifically that we want to come out of this? Like one I can think of is, do Do we want to start letting lifeboat builders know, hey, if you're posting on socials, can you use these hashtags or use a hashtag and tag us? I'm not sure how we want to do that or when to put that out. So any ideas to wrap that up? Over to Ben.
Good question. I was typing in, now I'm on this hashtag kick and I was seeing what different things I could find. I think this is a very good question. And I think as a next step, I like what you already proposed of talking to Austin about doing something that kind of gets the ball rolling. And I think we could, it strikes me that this is one of those, you don't just do it once, you just kind of make it a regular sort of reminder. If you're posting about this, that, or the other, tag us. But I feel like, we could do that, but I don't know if it would really have much of an impact. But I'm more interested in trying to figure out what the next steps are around encouraging people to tell their stories. And I'm not sure where that happens, but I think that maybe you and Austin just sort of putting your heads together and coming up with a little proposal sounds like a great next step. Yeah. I think that probably is enough for me for this. Over to Roland.
Yeah, I'm actually having a little protocol on how we've talked about using hashtags and the handle to refer back to, because I don't know how often people are going to ask us. So we've got something, you know, that we can look at, and we can type up and then forget, and then at one point say, "Don't we've got something written about that somewhere." Uh, and badge and uh, uh, yeah. So a little protocol, and yeah, about the question about letting people know. Actually, that could be kind of an interesting thing. And this is maybe something we can ask of the guilds, if there's anything that the guilds want to just communicate, to have a kind of we have a social media pro, so adding to it, then updating it, yes. Yeah, and this could be something to offer to the other guilds if there's anything that they want to communicate to the larger public, just like notes. And that's a different way of letting people know that things are happening, and working at engagement. So we could let people know that we now have this thing, that if they want to link with the Lifeboat Academy, this is what they can do. I think that would be transparency. It would be engagement. So yeah, something like that could be cool. Over to Pamela.
Two questions. One is, how much longer is the Academy and Builders going to be on Facebook? The other thing is it reasonable to put that little protocol into the sort of about or the profile section of the social media page, so that it's there as a placeholder, at least for the people here, to direct people, just click on the about and you will see how to use this thing. I don't know if that's a good use of that space. I'm thinking of it being particularly useful for the people who have made the decision, and to always know where it is. I don't know how your filing system is, but if things are just left in the notes, heaven help us. But maybe you've got a good retrieval system through Asana. It's possibly more sophisticated than anything I've used.
Yeah, our social media stuff is on a Google Doc in our drive, which is not something that's publicly available. I'm wondering about social routes because I see that as a place where we can send out messages to everybody it's not email, but people could receive it as email if they want. But I mean, one of our introductory posts could be, "Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Social Roots. We'd also love to have you share what you're working on and tag us, and here's how you can do that." So I think that would be my proposal. I'm also not sure where we're at with Social Roots currently. It might be a good time to check in. People are up for that. Sounds like you are. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, I can do an update on that too. I've been back and forth with Anya and Christina, and and this is, I think we can handle this by email, but they're going to do an in-person training with our core team on social roots that they say they should be able to do in an hour or less, depending on how tech savvy we are. And I feel like we're probably on the higher end of tech savvy for what social roots needs. And I was going to propose that we use some of our coordination meeting for that. Since, the core team is there and we can invite whoever wants to come. So that's really just a matter of, is that a good use of our coordination time? And that was my big question, was would it take the whole meeting? And as long as there are no other big topics, I think we could probably do some housekeeping and get that training. So yeah. And it's, this is one of those, what I was thinking about through all of this is an idea that has bubbled up a few times and hasn't kind of stuck yet, is us offering a peer-to-peer learning around social media as an organizing tool. And, some of these things like, I think 3/4 of the room did not really understand hashtags today when we entered. And likewise, sort of what are people's, not just peer-to-peer in terms of like what you get in some off-the-shelf thing on social media, but like Roland being able to talk about the different responses on Mastodon versus Blue Sky versus Facebook, and giving us a space to talk about where do people actually find you and what are some of the things that we could do. So this kind of feels like it could grow into something bigger, and what do we do that's just good enough for now, but with this idea that maybe it moves into something like that. Because I think these are questions everybody has right now, including the Facebook thing of, I think everyone is nervous about being on Facebook, what might happen. And yet that's where most people are. So if you're really trying to connect with people in your community, all the Pender stuff is on Facebook, and I think that's true in most places. So this is not, I think I'm veering away from next steps. And in terms of next steps, I think if we get if Ronnie and Austin talk about what that might be, if we set up the meeting for social roots, we still have to figure out how social roots works with what we're doing, because it's not social media. It's meant to be much more of an internal communication system. It's not a way that you're really no one's going to find us through social roots. We're just going to be able to have good conversations with other already allied people. Yeah, I think I'm rambling. I don't think I'm adding anything. So over to you, Roland.
I like your rambles. So when I was suggesting posting like little blurbs about things like this and inviting other guilds to do the same, I was thinking of actual social media, not an internal, not just lifeboat builders. So, and in the meantime, I feel like maybe that was where I was going, and I feel like there's maybe a resistance, not a resistance, but anyway. So I'm wondering if now that has given me an opportunity to think about it, and is that something like an invitation for people to link to the Lifeboat Academy by doing this reciprocation thing of hashtag blah 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 blah. If we put that out on social media, is there a concern or a fear? Or I'm wondering, does that mean that we're going to start getting all sorts of stuff from who knows who? And that it'll be a time suck of sorting through to say yes or no or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know how that would look like, or if it's just something. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm rambling now as well, and not in a productive way. So over to Pamela to uh, help.
Uh, sure, I'm into public embarrassment today. Um, Over to you, Ben. Or no, Ronnie. See, I can't even remember which one.
My proposal for asking lifeboat builders to do that in their posts is because I just don't think the general public's going to take us up on it. So if we ask people we already know to do it, they will start a trend that other people will see, and then they'll understand, oh, this is a thing, instead of Lifeboat Academy, what is that? What is what is going on? So in my head, it was a process to get to more exposure, more visibility, more engagement. Thinking about what is the 1%, 9%, 90% thing. So our lifeboat builders are our 1%. So let's ask them to do that, and we're much more likely to get responses. I also like the idea around a peer-to-peer skill share around social media. And I could talk to Ruth about that because Ruth does social media marketing as a job. So I could ask if she might be open to coming up with something. And I think that's something that could be useful for folks outside of here as well. So maybe we could do like a whole little webinar on it. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit tired and lost in the weeds, so I'm gonna pass it to Ben.
Well, I no, I think that it feels like there is something emerging here, and in that kind of short term, long term. Because so if I'm interpreting what Roland was saying correctly, some of the things that would get added to the peer-to-peer skill sharing are the kinds of things that we could do that are memeable, sort of things we could do one at a time, or like you're saying, two lifeboat builders. And I'm thinking about having a hook, some kind of hook, and that's maybe is uh yeah. A long time ago, I was co-facilitating with Deb Morrison, and it was in a big room. People were really loud, and she did that. If you can hear my voice, snap your fingers. If you can hear my voice, snap your fingers, and it works so well. And she was saying, it's like a Boy Scout trick. And the going back to the post where the guy said, stop yelling at people and telling them what to do, and instead testimonies. I think this is all coming back in my mind to the idea of testifying. Like, what's true for you? Stop trying to convince other people, but be willing to say, this is how I see it, this is what I'm doing. And so I'm thinking about something that is like tag, if you want people to hear you, if you want to connect with other people who might be able to hear you, tag Lifeboat Builder, like hashtag Lifeboat Builder. If you want to share with people who are, and maybe that's the other thing too, is that we make it clear that when you're tagging it, you're also kind of saying, I'm going to follow that tag, and I'm going to comment on things, and I'm going to share things that I'm going to repost your stuff when I'm called to do it. So, because I think that's part of the problem, is there's always this like, well, just tag it and send it out there, and then, something will happen. So I'm thinking about this as sort of related to the, like, if you can hear my voice, snap your fingers. And I even looked up snap your fingers as a hashtag, and there's one post with it, which is a jazz musician that had an album called Snap Your Fingers. So anyhow, I too am rambling, and I don't know that any of this is stuff we have to resolve today. So I'm good, I think, to move on and over to Roland.
Yeah, let's move on. Over to Pamela.
Next, Ronnie.
Well, we pretty much covered everything on the agenda. My only other question around the testimonials is, so far I've made 2 postable posts with testimonials. Do I throw them into the meme folder for Roland to post? How do we want to do that? Yeah, considerations. Over to Ben.
I don't feel like we have any risk of over posting right now. I think we could probably post more often and more stuff. So I would say when you got them, post it, and to the degree that I understand any of the social media stuff. I have no concerns. I think they can get posted when they're ready. Over to Roland.
Yeah. Over to Pam.
Clarification. How do you decide which you're going to post to? The builders of the academy? How do you make the distinction?
Oh, we're really I'm not concerned with Facebook very much anymore. I'm not really thinking about Facebook. So my priority for our posts is in Blue Sky and Mastodon and Instagram for now, because we're phasing out Facebook. But we have a Facebook page, and we have the Lifeboat Builders Facebook group, which nobody really is engaged at all. So I think we're posting right now largely out of habit, and that's just what we've been doing, but we're not really getting uptake on Facebook at all anymore. So unless if anybody else thinks differently about it.
Well, just a little clarification. I have been proposing that we remove ourselves from meta platforms across the board, so that would include Instagram.
Yeah.
So we're still posting on Facebook and Instagram, and that's have we decided what our retreat from Meta is? We've talked about it, but we haven't decided. Okay.
There's
So
no timeline.
There's the timeline and the how to that to work out. Okay. So sorry for jumping in, but that's the bit I would just add. Overall, removing ourselves from Meta is what my understanding.
Yeah, and my understanding too is that right now we've always assumed some people are on one platform, some people are on another platform, and they're not going to switch because we post one place or another. So most of the things are fairly portable. You can post it here, you can post it there. There's some formatting things that make it a little hinky, but generally speaking, it's not much harder. When you have the meme, it's not hard to post it to 4 places. So that's kind of what we've been doing, is shooting it Mastodon, Blue Sky, Facebook, and Instagram, because kind of you do Facebook and Instagram at the same time almost. And we see where, and that's part of what Roland's been tracking, noticing, is we post the same things, and we'll get 15 likes on Mastodon, and we'll get nothing on Facebook, and we'll get 3 on Blue Sky, or something like that. So right now our policy has been we do all of them, and then and that's also why I feel like I'm not even sure that the phasing out on Meta is. I feel like we keep doing it until some point where we're just like, let's just not post to Meta anymore. And do we need to remove ourselves or anything like that? I don't know if it's just we just stop posting. And I broke Circle. So I will, Ronnie, back to you to reestablish Circle.
Pass to Roland, because I think Roland has a response.
Yeah. Sorry. I think my brain is tired, and there was something that you were just saying, Ben, where I was just like, oh, and another thing. And now I can't remember what it is. Facebook Meta posting. And I can't remember what it is, sorry. But pass.
Things are getting interesting, and so things are also happening here in this district in Oak Bay, where the Friends of Bowker Creek, Oak Bay Climate Force, the Community Association of Oak Bay are getting together to start to coordinate certain things. And I was thinking it was a really good opportunity if this community in particular could be starting to coordinate and think about doing things in a slightly different way to start squeezing in more exposure with the Lifeboat Academy. So primarily everybody there, of course, has a Facebook page. So if you do keep it there, it may or may not be kind of useful as a remnant place to go. I'm not quite sure. I appreciate the lurch to disassociate with certain characters altogether. And I would like to sort of up my own cross-fertilization at the same time, but that goes the way it goes. I haven't been very good at keeping up with social media in any way, so it hasn't really benefited the Lifeboat Academy, the bit of seeding that I have tried to do. Ronnie.
Yeah, I like the idea of leaving our pages up and then just stop posting. And on Facebook and Meta, we could put a final post that says, we're no longer posting here. You can find us on Blue Sky and Mastodon and email, and just leave it at that. So that kind of takes away the big question of how do we do it and when and everything. It's just a matter of when do we make those posts, which anytime is fine with me, but if other people have other preferences, then we could talk about it. Do we want to figure that out now, or do we want to close up and say this was good enough? Good enough.
I'm on good enough. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a 3:15, and the battery on my computer is nearly dead.
Okay.
And the battery in my head
like
is
we
nearly
haven't
dead.
really touched any of the other topics, so I'm good with moving on.
Oh, we've covered everything.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, we're good. This was pretty productive. So yeah, so I will talk to Austin about kind of getting this testimonials thing going on social media. I'll also take a look at our social media protocol and see what I can update and make clearer and simpler. And then we'll figure out next steps once we learn more about social roots and go from there. Any other action items before we close? Okay.
No, and I'll take on you can put my name with the social roots. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. And yes, our new meeting time is officially half an hour later. So 2:30 Pacific, 4:30 Central. And I'll update it in the Google Calendar. So we'll know for next time.
and the website.
And the website. Yes. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye bye, all.